With September coming to a close, what better way to end off the month than talking about the most recent Zelda news? Well, I guess playing some Genshin Impact would also work. I'm totally not addicted to that game or anything. I better see that gun you returned, MiHoYo! Give me that Coco Goat! But in the meantime, I thought it would be nice to switch gears a bit and talk about the most recent Age of Calamity DLC trailer. For those who don't know, the first wave of DLC has been out for a while, but since there was no additional story to it, there wasn't much to talk about. I was also going into this direct hoping that there wouldn't be another Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, since I wasn't interested in making another 45-minute analysis. And overall, it was a very solid direct with some pretty exciting announcements. I haven't really done another Age of Calamity video in quite some time, and since this may very well be the last time I ever cover the game on the channel, why not go out with a bang on yet another trailer analysis? I'll be keeping it as brief as possible by focusing on the more interesting parts of it, so without further ado, let's get into it. Also, as of writing this script, it appears that there will be a TGS showcase of this DLC on October 2nd, another good reason to not get too in-depth with this trailer. We open up with a shot of Hyrule Field. It's obvious where this takes place since you can see the Great Plateau to the far left, as well as the Colosseum, with the following shot being a close-up of that structure. The Colosseum was one of the more interesting locations in Breath of the Wild, but also felt underused since there was no side quests attached to it. I'm glad to see that this area will have some sort of relevance in this newest DLC. It's also strange that the shots showed no life present here, almost as if this place has been abandoned. The only people seen in the Colosseum are Terraco, who's walking around aimlessly, and of course, this monstrosity. Chances are that it's another Blight form, or Calamity Ganon himself, a massive Sheikah technology fused together by malice. Something worth noting is that, aside from Dark Beast Ganon, all other Blights and Ganon forms didn't have the malice eyeball. Meanwhile, in this trailer, one is present in the first several frames of this shot. I doubt this detail is significant at all, just something that I noticed. Plus, Ganondorf himself is seen with the Malice eyeballs in the sequel trailer, not that it has any relevance to Age of Calamity. On another note, if this is the head of the Malice Ganon, could the Sheikah weapon here be fangs or teeth? I guess we'll just find out when it releases. Actually, now that I think about it, this creature looks a lot like a scorpion. In this shot, you can see a ton of thin appendages, as if they are tiny legs, with the Sheikah weapon that's preparing to strike looking similar to a stinger. The end of this body mass thins out as it goes higher, suggesting it to be a tail of sorts. It's very similar to Calamity Ganon's arachnid form in Breath of the Wild. If the previous weapons are supposed to be fangs, it makes you think of mandibles from insects. Whatever this creature is, it proceeds to strike Terraco with a fatal blow, which leads into a series of shots featuring many characters of Age of Calamity, only to go back to the opening shot which suggests that Terraco was indeed destroyed, assuming that these glass fragments are the shattered remains of Eggy Boy. But I'm sure he'll be okay, he'll get fixed again for like the 1000th time. And we don't see him get killed, so it's possible that the trailer is misleading us with how it conveniently moves away from him. There's a lot of evidence suggesting that everything seen in between these scenes are past memories of the robot. First off, it follows the whole life flashes before your eyes trope, and the sequence itself opens and closes as if it's a Breath of the Wild memory. Plus, the DLC itself is titled Guardian of Remembrance. There's so much more that could be speculated, such as if all the playable missions will take place before these events, or if we'll have some after, and why Terraco is in the Colosseum in the first place, but it's better just to wait. Calamity Ganon could be back despite being destroyed since, similar to Breath of the Wild, he'd still be deep below Hyrule Castle. And that's exactly why it's tough to pinpoint a timeline of events for this game. Anyways, the first couple shots are of Link and Zelda. The Z-Link shippers will love the second one as Link is teaching Zelda how to drive the Master Cycle Zero. I like how this indirectly references DLC Pack 1, as that was the expansion that included Zelda with the Master Cycle Zero as a playable character. Next we have Mipha looking down at something, and Sidon who is seen charging at an unknown enemy. Mipha herself could be injured, or perhaps she was using her ability to heal a wounded soldier. Next we have a shot with Vah Rudania and the Goron champion Daruk at Kakariko Village. Details of the expansion pass reveal that two of the new story arcs will be battles at Kakariko Village and Gopanga Village. so the previous shot with Mipha and Sidon is most likely taking place at the latter location. The next two shots seem to be connected as well. Kain Rome is fighting a moblin alongside Urbosa and her army, her dialogue linking the two scenes together since she references the King of Hyrule before charging into battle. And then of course, there's Revali in the Lost Woods. I'm not sure if he's talking to Link or someone else since he does say little kid and acts as if he's never met this person. For all we know, this little kid could be Sidon given his age and bravery in battle. But things get interesting in the next shot with Robbie and Pyrrha. The former uses what we can assume are flames from the ancient furnace to power up some sort of tech. His statement on partnering up likely foreshadows the later scenes revealing both characters to be playable in battle. This is a unique case of two people being a single playable character. This means that there's one more slot open, but we don't know who it will be. I'm assuming it's either Astor or Suga, but I'm hoping it's the former. Well, unless they go for the memes and make Baby Sidon a playable character, which, I mean, given the dialogue that Revali says, that could happen. Now, this is where things escalate to a level of, what the heck is going on? Deep in the forest, we see a number of figures wearing Astor's clothing. Either we're looking at clones of Astor, or the more likely option is that this is some sort of cult wearing the same uniform. Astor could be a member of this group, or even its leader. What's interesting is that there's a total of 7 of them, so it's kind of like an anti-Sage group. It makes me think of the 7 heroines who also appear in the Yika hideout along with the 8th. It's too far to fully make out, but this might be the same orb the sorcerer carries around in Age of Calamity. However, the detail that really confuses me is the shot of Hyrule Castle above. Presumably the Great Calamity of the original timeline. I'll explain why this is so bizarre once I get through the rest of the trailer. Next up is a scene with Suga and Koga. In the background, you can see one of the blights. I think it's Wind Blight. And Suga is using some sort of ability which may be powered by malice. One detail that's really cool is the inverted Sheikah eye symbol that appears, further suggesting that this ability isn't of the Sheikah, but Yiga. Either these two are fighting alongside the blights or against them. It's possible that they are surrounded by all 4 blights and Suga is protecting Koga, and his dialogue further implies this to be the case. Lastly, we return to the original timeline with the Great Calamity. Some malice takes over a guardian, who turns around and sees a flash of light from Zelda's tower. It's the same one seen in the opening of Age of Calamity, meaning that this is the moment Terraco wakes up and is about to time travel. In fact, it's likely that this is the same guardian that goes after the little robot, the one the malice ejects from to chase him into the new world. All that's left is a quick shot of Zelda, and that's basically the trailer. Overall, there are parts of this trailer that are very, very confusing. There are so many interpretations of this, so I'll do my best to go over some of them. First off, I hope that this DLC doesn't try to somehow squeeze itself into Breath of the Wild story. While I was disappointed with how this wasn't a true prequel to the game, I'm happy that they put most of the main story in an alternate timeline so as to not mess with the lore of the mainline series. But let's take the shot of the anti-sages for example. Is this simply a vision of the other timeline similar to what we see Astor do with his orb in the main story? Are they opening up a literal doorway to the Breath of the Wild timeline? Going further, there's the scene with the Guardian that immediately pursues Terraco in Zelda's study. Is this linked to the shot of the mysterious group in the woods? Are they going to suggest that, instead of Breath of the Wild's Calamity Ganon using his malice to enter the portal made by Terraco to prevent him from altering history, that the group from the Age of Calamity timeline saw the future of Terraco going back in time into their world, and Ganon used this technology to send his malice back in time to corrupt a Guardian and destroy Terraco before he could do this? But then he wouldn't have to follow him into the timeline since he had come from that timeline. I hope that I'm getting my point across here. This new trailer is so confusing that there's not much of a point in trying to answer all of the questions right now. It's entirely possible that this group of Astor-dressed sorcerers are just seeing future events similar to Age of Calamity. Maybe the DLC will consist of mission stories that occurred in between the main events of the game, or are even a prequel of sorts. We can't find a definitive placement for some of these cutscenes, such as the one with Suga and Koga. technically, we don't know if he actually died when fighting Astor, or if this shot is of the same battle. And this is why I don't want to elaborate much further on this, especially since this isn't a mainline game. For all we know, some of these events could be portrayed from the original Breath of the Wild timeline, though I hope that's not the case. When I heard they were making DLC for the game, I was hoping that the new stories would be parts of Breath of the Wild's Great Calamity, which would stay true to the information from the source material. It would have been incredible to experience the fall of Akala Citadel, or Link's final stand against Guardians, which led to his placement in the Shrine of Resurrection. The only other thing I'll go over is this last shot with the glass fragments. Perhaps each piece represents a different memory of Terraco, each memory being a different story mission. If you noticed, a lot of the characters in these pieces were linked together by the trailer. The shot with Mipha and her brother Sidon, likely to be the mission of Gopanga Village. Then we have confirmation of a battle at Kakariko Village, with only Daruk appearing in the cinematic. And wouldn't you know, the glass fragment he's on shows only him. And, as already mentioned, these two shots are linked, meaning both Urbosa and the king are fighting this battle. And this lines up with the fragment on the bottom right, so this might also be a separate mission. If we count the pieces, that's around 6 missions minimum. I'd assume that there would be an additional one for the last playable character, whether it be Astor or Suga, but those are my overall thoughts. That's as far as I want to go for this video. Since there's an upcoming presentation in the next week or so, I don't want to drag this on as it's merely an analysis, and chances are a lot of this will be debunked in the coming days. Thank you all for watching this video, and the usual links will be down below. I've been NintendoBlackCrisis, and I will see you all next time.